Hey guys, welcome to the shop. Now, this week we're going to be kind of taking off where we left off last week. And last week we brazed up the damaged area of a gear. And now we need to cut the teeth back in the area that we filled in. So, my plan is to use the shaper for this. I've kind of got a mock setup here. We'll go over that setup in just a minute and, refine it. We need to find a piece of high-speed steel in our high-speed steel toolbox and then grind it to fit the profile of these gear teeth. Hopefully we'll end up with something halfway decent. So let's find a piece of steel, let's grind it, and then we'll get set up and cut it. Alright, let's see what we got. Lots of high-speed steel, not lots of half-inch. I got a lot of 3/4 and a lot of 5/8, but very little half-inch. And I want something that will fit in this holder. It's a 1/2-inch Armstrong holder. And let's see. There's kind of a crusty piece. Let's turn this into something good. It is a piece of Cobra by Ludlow Steel Company. I don't know if you can see that or not by the glare, but anyway, a piece of Cobra. I'm not for sure what grade this is, but it should work fine for what we're doing. So let's go over to the grinder and turn this into something useful. Alright, so I'm just going to do the best I can in order to get the shape that I want. And where I'm starting off with just a much larger piece, I'm just going to thin it down some. Thin it down some, give me a place to kind of start, but this old wheel needs dressing, and I made this a few years ago. Just a metal block, 1/2-inch hole, 1/2-inch diamond nib inside. Alright, so got a good place to start, and that is just thin this blank down. It's much too wide. Alright, so I really don't recommend anybody use a grinder without an actual wheel guard on it, but if you do, use a face shield and stuff. This is all I've got at the moment. But, you gotta really be careful. These, one of the more dangerous things in the shop is probably a bench grinder and a stone. Now, if you've never dressed your bench grinder stones, I suggest that you either make you a wheel dresser or buy one, because it makes a huge difference. It just lets the wheel cut a lot freer. After they get glazed up, they seem to just generate a lot of heat and not remove much material. So get you a wheel dresser. It really does help. You can see I'm just moving the tool up and down slightly. It just seems to help remove the material a little faster. And I'm just working from one side of the wheel to the other to try to generate the shape that I want. It's just an old coffee can full of water. I really like the ones that you can stick the lid back on when you're done. Alright, so I've just been roughing it by eye, just what I think it should be like, and doing a quick test fit. Wow, that is amazingly close for a eyeball test fit, or first grind test fit. Wow, it's off, but it's really close. Let me show you where I'm at just by eye. Now, I could set this up on the cutter grinder, but you're talking, this is taking, 10 minutes max probably. That would take 2 hours probably to get set up. So let me show you what I got just by hand, real quick. And so hopefully you can see that decently well. Not perfect, but man, that is so close. And that was just by eye. I got lucky on that, really. Still needs a little refinement, just a little touch up. But that is pretty good. So, you could spend forever setting up a cutter grinder, or you could just grind it by hand. And depending on the work that you need to do, I think that for a hand-operated RV room extension gear, that this cutter will be just fine. Now, if this was some high-speed gear in a gearbox operating on a machine tool, it'd be a different story. But this is probably about as important as a trailer jack gear. So you get the idea. We just want something that works well. So I think with a little refinement, I'm just going to touch this guy up. I just used the radiuses that were in the sides of the wheel already and kind of worked it back, and that turned out really good. So just going to touch it a little bit and call that good. The clearances are already in. So there you go. That fits pretty dang good if you ask me. It's not perfect, but good enough. I didn't want to spend 4 hours on the cutter grinder getting everything set up and just to fix a gear like this. So I opted to hand grind, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with a bench grinder. You can get some good work out of one if you're careful. And what I'm using on this is just a well-used diamond plate. It's a lot finer than what it used to be as far as its grit. And what I sprayed on it was just this right here. It's Coleman, well, not Coleman, this is Crown White Gas Camp Fuel for gas stoves and lanterns. This stuff works really well. I've had really good luck with it. And I'm just going to polish the top of this tool, and then I will fine hone it with a translucent Arkansas stone. I want a good sharp edge, because I'll probably keep this tool for a long time. Just using a real light pressure. I don't want to roll my edge over. I just want a good flat face on this tool that I can polish up real nice. Enough of that. And the vise. And this translucent stone will put a really fine polish on it. And I just want to keep the majority of this stone on the top of the tool here. I don't want to get off to the edge and start rolling it, or get out to the end and start rolling my edge over. So I'm just going to work this, trying to keep, like I said, my stone on the tool and not roll my edges. Alright, so hopefully you can see that transition from the rough original surface finish to the polished front edge. Turned out actually pretty nice, and should hold up, I would say. Fits pretty good, not perfect, but we're not after perfection on this job. Here's another tool that I ground, same profile, but I didn't grind this one on camera. Just for myself, really, just to do. So we're going to use the one we just ground, let's go get set up in the shaper because there's some refining to do, and see if we can't get this thing cut, man. Alright, so here's a little look at the setup on the shaper. I'm gonna get you situated here. Got a machinist jack. That's just to support the end of the shaft. I've got a spacer that I just machined, simple spacer. That will allow my cutter to come through and clear, you know, this spacer, but cut to the very root of the tooth. Take my machinist jack to support the end of the shaft. I can support it basically right at the piece. I don't want it to really push up, just enough to where it's, you know, in there. So now when the shaper cuts back and forth, I've got our tool in here, it can't push this part into the chuck, you know, because it's just slid up onto this hex on here. It's really fairly tight on there. I guess when I brazed it, it shrank just a little, so I had to kind of drive it onto the shaft, which is fine, but I don't want to take the chance and it slip on me, so made the spacer. So I'm going to get lined up here with my gear teeth and my cutter. Just going to line it up by eye, and then we'll go around and we'll cut this. This rotary table's 90-to-1, so it's really easy. 5 turns of the handle will give me the 18 divisions. This is the 18-tooth gear that I need in order to cut this. So let me get lined up a little bit, and I'll bring you back and we'll cut these teeth. So I've got a 2-inch stroke. I'm running 44 strokes a minute. I'm going to be using just a little WD-40 on it, and hopefully it cuts good. So let's fire this thing up and cut these teeth. that's it. And cut the next one. Good, let's get a good look at it. I'm pretty happy with that. I think it looks pretty good. Let's pull it out of here and look at it. See what we did. I had a couple options to hold this thing. I've got a C5 indexer over there that was given to me by Jim Lichty, and I've got also a setup on for the cutter grinder that would have probably worked for this, but both of them are kind of long, and I really wouldn't have gained much. and probably lost a little rigidity. So I just decided to go with, the rotary table and a machinist jack, because there's no room on these shaper tables, especially the universal tables. You can get a table extension for these, which is really neat, and all it does is bolt to the existing table and make it longer. Because this table's probably, I think it's 15 inches long, and that's it, with 3 T-slots, so not a lot of real estate on the table. Let's take this over to the bench and look at it. So there it is. And I think that looks really good. It's not perfectly symmetrical on our hand grind tool, but you have to really look to even tell. And for the application, I think this will be just fine. It's not a, like I said, not a high-speed gear or anything, so it really will make absolutely no difference. If that was the case, I would have, bought a cutter and made a whole new gear if this was something critical. But, you do what's probably the best practice for the job, and that was just to braze this up, grind a hand cutter quick, and cut it. And it'll probably work for a long time now. So, yeah, I'm really happy with that. That's one of the first few gears I've ever cut, really. I think that looks pretty good. I think this is like the third one, so third one I've ever done. Not too bad. Got a little spot of mist right there, but it's nothing. Well, guys, it is done. Got plumb cold out here. If you watched earlier in the video, I showed a shot of the creek out here, and it's starting to actually, ice up a bit, and it's snowing. So, it's in the 20s. I do not like that at all, and I am already excited for spring. I'm ready to get the garden back going. Wintertime's not my favorite time of year. But anyway, big thanks to you guys. I really appreciate it. I think that the repair that we done today was a compromise. On a shaft like this, or a gear like this, it would take quite a bit to make one new, considering it has a hex bore in the center. I'd have to broach it on the shaper or buy a hex broach in order to make that hole, and then really it really needs to be done on the horizontal mill with the proper profiled cutter, but we don't have the horizontal mill going, so compromise. But I think for the purpose, it is an acceptable repair, and hopefully it'll hold up. And if it doesn't, then I'll just have to make a new one in the future. So no big deal, really. I enjoyed it, and just good practice. So big thanks to all my viewers. I really appreciate you guys spending an hour or so with me every week. I always look forward to posting for you guys. Big thanks to my patrons. I really appreciate you guys for throwing $1 in the hat and helping me, keep these lights on and keep some heat out here. So thanks to you guys for that, and just thanks to my viewers in general. So if you need anything, contact me through my email up here, and if you got something to say, leave a comment. I try to read through them and reply when I can. So thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.